It's Monday, October 20th, 2025, and it's time to wake up Wilmington. Today we are going to amaze you. We are going to amuse you. We're going to show you some front house and back of the house scenes of Wake Up Wilmington. We have a guest coming in later. In fact, we have 3 guests coming in the second hour at 9 o'clock. It's just yours truly here, the guy behind the screen, going to show you behind the screen as well as in front of the screen. And we've got a friend out there sitting at the table there. I don't know what we call him, skeleton or whatever, but anyway, happy Monday. And some of the shots that we're talking about that we will show you is back here behind the screen where I am, obviously back in front of the screen at the desk. Let me go ahead and place the good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Rita Wolf. How's everybody this morning? Doing something a little different for the first hour because I've got an hour to kill. I'm going to catch you up on what's going on at the Murphy Theater. I'm also going to give you a little bit of behind the scenes look. Just have to remember to switch my camera on. We're working on 2 cameras today. We have fiber, and we've had fiber now probably for about 3-4 months. We kept talking about the fact that once we got fiber, we would have all kinds of things that we could do. That's a good one. Hi, Boney. I like that. Dean Thompson, how are you this morning? And I'm great. And Mr. Boney is great out there, too. Let me take your... So he'll be with us today as well. Some of the guests that we've got, well, we're going to be talking, I guess you could say, state policy here in the second hour. Now, to some of you, that may be boring, but I think to a lot of people, particularly people that are retired, that are on a fixed income, have a big interest. Not that not all people have a big interest, but in property tax. And why do we even pay property tax? What does property tax go for? How's it used? We know it helps the schools, but our schools are in such a mess. We're not going to get into a lot of politics. This will be a policy discussion. We have a lady coming down from the state of Ohio, and she is helping Vivek Ramaswamy in their efforts to do away with state property taxes so that people that are on fixed incomes that are retired that don't want to lose their houses simply because they can't pay for some of the exorbitant property taxes that have been levied on them by their local school systems and other government entities. This should be an interesting discussion, and there is a big push in Ohio to get rid of property tax. There's also another push in Ohio to get rid of sales tax. Now, you get rid of property tax, you get rid of sales tax. Maybe the best way to pay for a lot of the things that we've been paying for is strictly income tax. For the people that are working, that are earning a living, I know that people keep asking for more of your money, but if you don't have to pay property tax and you're not paying sales tax or income tax on what you're making, you should be able to take more of that money and be able to apply it to all the other things that we need to pay for. because you'll have more money left in your pocket. And we'll have someone in here later. Bill Raybeck, who used to be here on our station on the Razor's Edge, will be in today, as well as Joe Holdren. You've seen Joe many times on the show, and he will be also in. So we'll have a 3-panel in the second hour at 9 o'clock. You want to stay tuned for that. If you want to learn a little bit about the crazy stuff we've got going on here, just like this, we have a lot of other capabilities we haven't shown people over the last few months. And Dean says he's fine. Besides just putting your name and your communication on the board, we have the ability to show a lot more. And in fact, this box or dual box that you see here, which is showing cameras 1 and 2 at the same time, the camera with Boney there, as Kevin calls him, and also with yours truly, these types of things that we can do will help us in the future as we bring in people and interview people, not just from here in Wilmington, but also our new location in Washington Courthouse, which will be coming soon. We hope to have that up and operating in November, maybe get it going before Thanksgiving, but that'll give us more capabilities. We're working on other things that we'll talk about here shortly, but this is just one of them. The ability to be able to use our switcher in more of a capacity. We even have the ability, if you're sitting out there in the audience and you got your pajamas on, you're not sitting there naked at your television or your desk, we can actually bring you into the stream if you've got a webcam and you allow us to bring you in. Now, we're not going to do that today, but that's just something for the future. Vicki Kendall, how are you this morning? Vicki, did you say that you had already harvested all your crops, that they're in? And I thought that you had said something to that effect. But anyway, once again, as I said, what we will be doing here in this first hour, we'll be talking a little bit about the Murphy, our home where we are here in Wilmington. We'll be talking a little bit more about Vinyl Coffee, our new home, which will be in Washington Courthouse for Wake Up Washington Courthouse. And for me, since I gave Joe Davis the day off, because I've worked him so hard, and I had no one else coming in the morning, I thought, well, I'll just wing it here by myself and kill the first hour that we're on the show, and then we'll bring in Bill Raybeck, Joe Holdren, and our guest from Columbus to talk about property taxes and how we might be able to eliminate those in Ohio. And I'm all for eliminating income tax as well. That will once again make it much easier to expect the people that are working, that are earning a living, to be able to pay more so that we can support the schools and the other necessities that we need to operate the state of Ohio. I think we've all seen from the shutdown so far that there's probably a lot of things that we pay for, knowingly and unknowingly, that maybe we don't need. And that is not just at the federal level, but that would be at the state and local level. These are things that we need to be examining. And once again, this is not a political talk. This is policy. Policy runs the government, and these policies affect you and they affect me. And Vicki says, yes, double crops are all we have left. When you say double crops, what are the double crops, Vicki? Anyway, we'll go back to the two. This is where we are, and a lot of you have probably never seen behind the screen. You obviously see the table and our set that we usually broadcast from, but this actually is behind what goes on. This is the bar at Charlie's, well stocked as you can see, although we don't really start that until after 5 o'clock. But anyway, growing up in business all my life, I've owned a dozen bars, and so this behind me is sort of something that I've been used to over the years. Bones are the same as a haircut, Joe. Well, Joe, since I gave him the day off, I did tell him that he could come in if he wanted to. Good morning, Stephanie Morton. A little something different we're doing here. This is my guest for the first hour besides yours truly. And I thought we'd do something a little quirky, a little different, a little interesting. Maybe it's not interesting, I don't know. But if you want to hang in there with me that first hour, I'm happy to. So after we harvest wheat and straw, we plant beans to be harvested. Yeah, so that would be the two crop harvest. And I know that, I don't know whether it's, because I don't know the difference between straw and hay. I know there is a difference. I don't know how subtle it is, but I have seen many times where straw or hay, whichever, because once again, I don't know the difference, is planted and then they come and they mow it. And then they'll mow it maybe several times over a season. And so I'm assuming that that is eventually baled, and that's the hay that feeds a lot, the cattle and some of the other animals, the horses. But, once again, I am not a farmer. I do not profess to play a farmer on television. But maybe, Vicki, you can enlighten us a little. Because, once again, we are in Clinton County, Ohio, and this is a hotbed of farming, and hopefully it will be for the future. And we rely a lot on our farmers. That's why I know a lot of people get upset when they're behind a tractor or a combine or some other vehicle that's out there that's moving at a very slow pace. But remember, these are the people that feed us. These are the people that help feed the animals that feed us. So be kind to them when you're out on the roads. And just remember where your bread is buttered, so to speak. We depend on these farmers. What else do we have here? Hay you feed critters and straws for bedding. Okay, so straw would be what Joe Davis sleeps on at night, and hay is what you feed critters. Now, Vicki, which can you mow multiple times, both, or hay or straw? I'm getting an education here. Once again, we're showing you some of the great things that our switcher can do. I know we've been having problems about a week ago with the software that operates what we do, and it does many things that we've never used before, or we don't use in our broadcasts, at least not here. Maybe we do in our sports broadcasting because we use the same software. But anyway, they did get it corrected, and the software appears to be functioning very well. And some of the stuff that I'm showing you, we've been able to do for ever since we've been on the air on Wake Up Wilmington. We've just never had a reason to use it. But I know that it's interesting to a lot of people just to see how things work, whether we're switching from one camera to the next. And right now, normally we just operate on one camera. It's only necessary to show those people at the table. A lot of people complain because I didn't even have a microphone and I was kind of muffled. You couldn't understand what I said. Today I have a microphone. We'll have 3 additional people coming in the second hour to talk about, we'll call it tax relief, property tax relief in Ohio. And the lady that comes in from Columbus will be talking to us about that. Bill Raybeck, who lives in Cleveland, used to be on our show and had his own political show called The Razor's Edge. Although once again, like I say, I emphasize we're not talking politics today. What we are talking is policy. Policies that affect you and they affect me, and how we might be able to change those policies to do away with property tax, particularly property tax that affects gray-haired people. I know that I do not own property now. I simply am in a condo, but the property that my family owned since 1971, we were paying several thousands of dollars every 6 months for our property tax, and that can be burdensome, especially to people that are on a fixed income. People that are on a fixed income don't have the ability sometimes to pay those property taxes, and they lose their homes, they lose their property. That should never happen in the state of Ohio, or for that matter, anywhere else. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the second hour today. In the meantime, what we're going to be talking about is the Murphy Theater and some of the interesting stuff that we can do in the future with our software. Okay, so Vicki is saying that if we're lucky, we can cut hay 3 times. Straw is cut 1 time. So straw, you plant it, you grow it, and that's used for bedding for the animals. Hay, you can cut maybe up to 3 times. Now, what do we see in those rolls? Is that hay and straw, hay or straw, or both? I'm just getting And yes, Mark Rogers, that is absolutely correct. God bless the American farmer. American farmer are like our veterans. We depend on them. They come through. They go out early in the morning. They stay out late at night. I know growing up here, or at least living here since 1971 in Wilmington, when I lived in Beaver Creek, we didn't have quite the same setup with the farming. Although Beaver Creek, when I lived in Beaver Creek, was more like Wilmington. Maybe it was never quite as small, but basically Wilmington was a rural area. Beaver Creek was a rural area. Now look at it, you know. And I hope Wilmington continues to keep its small town charm. And we're doing everything we can to work with our community, to help our community thrive. That's what Wake Up Wilmington's all about. Hay is in rolls, Vicki says. Hay is in rolls. All right. Just getting some information here that is news to me. But anyway, we're working off 2 cameras. One camera is at our table, just like it would normally be pointed at. And that's the camera that I sit behind, and I operate the switching software that is on an iPad, and that software controls everything that goes on as far as our broadcasts. So you're getting sort of an insight today into a little bit more of Wake Up Wilmington and how we operate and how we do. And part of the reason is because since we were having some guests come in and talk about the property tax issue, I thought that maybe we'd give Joe Davis a day off. He's been working hard. He works with me on Campus Nation. We do sports all over the area. Sad for us that Jackson beat Miami Trace. Miami Trace is no longer undefeated. They have 1 loss just like Jackson. They could eventually end up tying Jackson and possibly even Chillicothe for the FAC championship. Then again, if Jackson wins out, they only have 1 more game to play. Jackson will be the 4-time champ of the FAC, 4 times in a row. Also, the big black and blue game will be this Friday, and that will also be at Miami Trace. That's between Washington Courthouse, the Blue Lions, and the Miami Trace Panthers. And that game is the grudge match that we play every year. Unfortunately, they moved that grudge match with Wilmington and Massey up to the middle of the year, so it doesn't have the same kind of effect like it would at the end of the year. But fortunately, Miami Trace and the Blue Lions, they continue to have their grudge match at the end of the year, as do most high school football teams. I don't think we've got any Wilmington College this weekend, and of course we subcontract for Flow Sports. Campus Nation doesn't actually do Saturday football at Wilmington College, although we do work with Wilmington College to bring the game to people on Flow Sports. And then the Buckeyes also are off Sunday. They've got, no, wait a minute. I think this Sunday, I'll have to look it up just to make sure. The Buckeyes will be at Wright State, my alma mater, Joe Davis's alma mater. And so if that's the case, Joe Davis and I will be at Wright State this Sunday for that game. I'll have to look it up and check, but we'll let you know. In the meantime, we're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on at the Murphy, what's going to be going on at the Murphy, give you more of an insight as to what goes on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes here at the Wake Up Wilmington set. Today we've got, as we were suggested to by Kevin Martin, Boney, I put him at the desk, so there'll actually be 4 people here today besides myself. There'll be Boney, and there will be a guest from Columbus, and there will also be Joe Holdren and also Bill Raybeck. And if you remember Bill Raybeck, he was a teacher at East Clinton. He worked with me for years. He retired. Subsequently, he and his wife, Carol, they moved to Columbus, or to Cleveland, excuse me. They moved to Cleveland, where they live currently. Although Bill is in Wilmington right now, well, when I say Wilmington, he's close to Wilmington. He's got relatives, a son that lives here in the area, and he stayed with him overnight. He came in from Cleveland last night, and he is waiting and will be in shortly to be on the show today with our guest from Columbus talking about property tax. Yes, Mark Rogers, you are correct. There are big internet outages nationwide, and I don't think it just affects the internet. Uh, AWS, which is the big Amazon streaming service. It's where people host and keep all their information. That was down. There was also telephone service down as far as cell phone service. I think that the internet outage actually affected a lot more than just hosting and some of the others. Yeah, Kevin, Boney will have a mic. The mic is right behind his head. And these mics are so sophisticated that if he has any thoughts, it'll even pick his thoughts up right from his brain. You just wait and see. But anyway, we will be talking more about this property tax issue in the second hour. Bill Raybeck will probably be in a little early, so as soon as Bill or also Joe Holdren get in, I'll put him at the table so that we can have a little bit more than just me pontificating about it. But let me bring you up to date as I put Boney on the screen. In fact, I'll put us both on the screen. So there you go. When we start interviewing people, whether it's from here locally or anywhere around the world, also connecting our studios in Washington Courthouse along with our studios here in Wilmington, we can use this type of setup. And you've seen something similar to this on CNN or Fox News, where they will bring in a second person, like you see me live in one section of the screen, and you see Mr. Boney there in the other side. We have the ability to bring multiple people, so we can bring, I think, up to 9 people. Not that it would be that easy to really see little tiny people like that as far as on the screen, but it does well for us to use something like that when we're interviewing somebody and we want me or someone else that's actually doing the interviewing, and then also the interviewee in the screen. And as I said, we've had the ability all along to bring people in directly. As you type on the screen, I can bring certain people in that have webcams and that aren't sitting naked at home behind their computer screen, bring them in live. But we'll prepare for that for the future as far as bringing in actual guests that are in our studio audience. We're also going to be starting, as we're working on some of the stuff that I'm showing you here, we are working on doing a different type of game format. And that game format, we have software that actually runs games and that, sort of like you see on real television when they do the games, we'll have that same ability. We'll also be going to bars, restaurants, venues, weddings, things like that, where people might want to play the games and be doing game shows all over the place. But in the meantime, we'll also be using that same software here on Wake Up Wilmington and Wake Up Washington Courthouse so that we can play the games with using our software rather than Joe Davis making these crazy games that he makes up that no one can make sense of when we do that. But for the meantime, I'll put Mr. Boney on the screen and let's talk about what's going on here at the Murphy Theater. But first, we're going to take a break. We will be back after we have some commercials. You're watching Wake Up Wilmington.
Roller Haven is located at 1640 U.S. Highway 22 Northwest, Washington Courthouse, Ohio. The perfect place for a day out with the family, birthday parties, and even an organization event or fundraiser. Check out our website, rollerhavenwch.com, or give us a call at 740-335-6481, and we can help plan your event. We look forward.
Car Express, 740-248-5300. Troy Bach has a great car lot right there across from Washington High School in Washington Courthouse. Moves a lot of cars, and he can get your perfect car for you. These cars are late modeled, very clean, low mileage, used cars that Troy can get his hands on. So if you have a particular car in mind and you would like to, you would like to have him procure that car for you, just give Troy a call. Troy Bach at Car Express, and I'm going to come back now to the show. I don't have any idea. My final resting place. Let's see. Let me see if that'll play now. All right, there we go. No, it won't. So apparently I'm going to have to reload that video. I'm going to work on that here later. Anyway, there we go. I'm back. All right, so going on here at the Murphy Theater. And look how fast we've killed a half an hour. The first half an hour is behind us. We've got a lady coming in from the state of Ohio, or actually, she's not actually, I don't think she works for the state of Ohio, but she is an individual that is interested in helping us do away with property tax. Property tax can be very burdensome, particularly on people that are on a fixed income, that have low incomes, or that are retired and don't have the same kind of income that they had when they were working, in their younger lives. But we'll talk about that in the second hour. Bill Raybeck, Joe Holdren, and our guest from Ohio's capital will be in at 9 o'clock. But meanwhile, you ask, what goes on at the Murphy Theater? Well, today is October the 20th, so I got to make sure that I don't tell you what's already been happened at the Murphy. We did have, I think we gave away, they said, if I'm not mistaken, here at the Murphy Theater, we prepared, and we showed you last Friday, these little tiny orange bags of popcorn that we were giving out for the kids that were coming in, because they had the candy thing going on here in Wilmington, and all the merchants and other businesses and other entities gave out, candy for the kiddies. And in fact, I still have goodies that I took some of them out of the conference room. They're over across the hall here at the Murphy. Saw they had a bunch of candy left over, and I thought, oh, I'll help myself to some candy. Everybody likes candy. I love candy. But anyway, at the Murphy, Friday, October the 24th, so that's this coming Friday, James Stewart, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. It's a 1951 movie that was produced, let's see, 2 years before I was born. So kind of an old one there. But these are movies at the Murphy series. The general admission tickets are $7 each, or if you want to bring the whole family, it's $12 for the whole family. Bring them in. And this Rear Window is sort of a, I don't know, it's PG, but it might be a little scary just because of its very nature to maybe young people. But that will be up to you folks as far as your parents, whether you want to bring the kids for that one. Also, the Rhinestone Cowgirls, legendary ladies of country music. That'll be this Saturday, October the 25th. That is at 7:30. Tickets are on sale now, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the tickets are $25 or $30. I don't have the price here, so I'm not sure. And I don't have anyone here from the Murphy like I do when I normally have Rick Morton or when Steve comes in to actually give us the ticket price. But I do know that there is on October the 31st, which would actually be Halloween, we've got Peach Doreen Ragtime Society Orchestra, and not. I need Joe Davis in here to pronounce this. Whatever. You know what it is. In fact, that's interesting because we talked about this. It's going to be here at the Murphy, but I saw something about it being on one of the streaming services. They were advertising it. And of course, here at Charlie's, we'll have beer, wine, and restless spirits. Tickets for this, and there's will be a live audience or orchestra. Tickets will be $25. And don't forget, you can become a Murphy member for I think as little as $50 and help support the Murphy Theater right here in downtown Wilmington, a 107-year-old gem that we are so fortunate to have, and that we are so fortunate to be able to be broadcasting from on Wake Up Wilmington. And then November will kick off, and I'm going to give you the first event that we're having November, Saturday, November the 1st at 7:30. We present Thunderstruck, 2015 America Tribute Thunderstruck, which will be Saturday, November the 1st at 7:30 right here from the Murphy Theater. And you can always remember, order on your tickets online at the murphy.org website. Do not order from some website that you're unfamiliar with, or better yet, if you're here in the area, come down to the ticket office, and we're open later in the afternoons, but come down to the ticket office and buy directly. That way you've got your tickets. You can also, see the seating charts like you can online, but a lot of times the people here at the Murphy can help you get the best seating that's available. And sometimes they'll know, for instance, if there's cancellations, what is the latest, greatest seats for you to be able to get here to watch any event here that happens at the Murphy Theater. So now we're going to get back to some of the things that we were talking about as far as our guests that are coming in at the top of the hour. At 9 o'clock in the 9 o'clock hour, Bill Raybeck, Joe Holdren, and our guest from Columbus, Ohio, she's going to be in to talk about doing away, or at least, well, I guess you could say, doing away with state property tax. State of Ohio property tax, local property tax. I've got Bill Raybeck calling me. Yes. Oh, our door is up at the very end. So keep going down the street towards Main Street or towards South Street. And we're the last door before the gate on the right. Oh no, Samuel Walker's where I used to have my nightclub. Come down further and to the Murphy. You'll pass the Murphy, and we're the last door on the right before there's a gate, metal gate that you come through. Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible. And I'm holding up the show all by myself, Bill. So, well, you just walk back. You walk past. Turn around, come back. I'm talking to you on my Apple Watch because I'm using my phone as a camera. Come in here. All right. All right. I thought you were going to pull a Joe Davis on me. Oh no. Well, we do have a studio upstairs. For the first time, people are actually seeing, because I've got two cameras. I brought I guess I can hang up. I brought a tripod and a holder for your camera. Okay. But I also I thought, well, I've got it. I might as well use it. So I set up the second camera to show me here at this table, because people don't normally see what goes on behind the scenes. Right. That's what this is showing. Okay. Then I've got the camera with one of our avid viewers from Dublin, Ohio, has named our guest at the table Boney. So Mr. Boney he's at the table right now. Appropriate for the. That's right. And then I'm showing them, which they've never seen, some of the software and the way that we can do, for instance, on interviews, and how we can have Mr. Boney, and we can also have my other camera, or however many cameras. This way we can bring people in, like we have you before on sports broadcasts from Cleveland. Right. And be able to do that and put them in Windows. And so this software is a little different than the software that we had used in the past, but our Mr. Boney
Yeah.
and our behind the scenes. And this is Bill Raybeck here. And was talking to them about the fact that you used to work with us a lot,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you ran away and retired.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
I
And
did. It was the best thing I ever did.
probably true. Probably. I don't know when it'll ever happen to me. Probably.
Yeah, you'll never retire.
Probably never.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Okay.
so why don't you sit at the table now? Joe is probably going to be in here shortly after, I would imagine.
And I talked to Joe. He should be here.
Holden.
Joe Holdren should be here pretty soon.
Right. And I gave Joe Davis the day off because I thought, well, this is live. This is the other camera. I
Okay.
thought, well, Joe has been coming in early in the morning, and he's an old man, and so he needed, and plus he works our sports and stuff like
Yeah,
that. And so anyway, we decided that we'd give him the because we're only going to have to fill an hour, which was me,
Right.
with you folks coming in.
Well,
and talk.
I'll get on there. Where's your?
Through that door.
Okay. And I'll be right back.
Yeah, the double doors to the right. Watch out for the ghosts. Yeah, yeah. Mm. So, this is the epitome of local television broadcasting, where we literally we fly by the seat of our pants, and that's what I feel like I'm doing today. But anyway, Mr. Boney at our desk, which will be occupied by our three guests that are coming in, Bill Raybeck being one of them, Joe Holdren being another, and a young lady from Columbus. She will be in because she has the specific knowledge on how we might be able to effectively get away from using property tax for anything and just making property tax in Ohio illegal so that people are not losing their homes and their homesteads to the state because they can't afford to pay their property tax or their local taxes to support schools and things like that. Particularly when they get to the age of seniority because they don't have the same kind of income that they're generating. But just in general, property tax is a destructive type of tax in the sense that it hurts so many people versus the people that it helps. And so once again, what we're looking to do, and I'm all for it, is find a different idea as to how we fund some of this stuff. I'm also for getting rid of income tax. If we got rid of the state income tax, we'd be one of a handful of states across the country that actually, with not having a state income tax, would increase business coming into the state of Ohio, which would bring essentially more tax in. And you say, well, what tax would you depend on? Well, you depend on income tax. Income tax when people are at the height of their earning capacity. They are young, they are healthy, and they are well paid in most cases. And they're earning more money than they will ever earn probably in their lives. And of course, it's sort of like you start low, you start a job, you finally get to the epitome of of your career, and you're earning the most money. And then obviously, as you retire or as you get into old age, you are earning less money. And when you earn less money, you shouldn't be spending thousands of dollars every 6 months or every year on state property taxes. And income taxes, once again, would put more money in people's pockets because they wouldn't have money taken out of their check other than federal income tax. And I have a way to get rid of that as well. These tariffs could be a possible way, but there's other ways. Even with a state sales tax, or a federal sales tax. If we did away with income tax at any level and we just had federal income or a federal sales tax, if someone wants to buy a Mercedes like Kevin Martin, and I'm buying a Ford Fiesta or a Ford Focus or some little $7,000 car, I'm paying less tax than Kevin Martin's paying for his Aston Martin, right? Right? That's the whole idea of that. And I'm not picking on you, Kevin. Vicky says our farm tax increased threefold because we have a small woods on our property. They said someone might build a house there someday. I have 3 sons and I won't let them build. I don't understand, Vicky. How can they charge you more tax based on what you might use the property for? And the fact that it has a woods and that someone may build in that woods shouldn't affect property tax. I know because once again, we had a 7-acre, it wasn't a farm, it was 7 acres. We also had a private lane that we shared with 3 or 4 other neighbors. We paid the same tax on the lane as we did our regular property, which was considered, I guess you could say, a small farm. So the tax that we paid on the 7 acres was different than I think that you would normally pay on a full-scale farm. I think it was also different than what you would pay on if it was just a residential property. But the fact that your woods could be converted at some future date to a place where people are actually living should only incur that kind of tax when they actually build in the woods and they're living there. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I don't understand. But I think that sometimes they're particularly vague about how they tax people because they don't want to. You're not on camera right now, Bill. I am. And that's the other problem. I've heard that just recently now, since more and more people are challenging property tax valuation, that a lot of companies, or there are companies that the local entities and the state entities hire to fight it, to actually look into fighting you challenging what you consider to be unfair property taxes. Because it used to be that, you know, if you challenge property taxes, usually all you had to do was bring it up to this board or whatever, and they would find some way to lower your property tax. But now they're actually not wanting to give you any of that money back. So there's a lot more entities that are fighting, particularly school systems. And it is a poor way to fund schools. And I think that it's actually been ruled unconstitutional by the state Supreme Court in 2001. So, you know, I'm for, you know, getting rid of property tax, period, and not using property tax as a way to, and unfortunately, you have to be careful because governmental entities, if property tax is no longer paid for supporting schools and things like that, they'll just want to keep the money they're getting for the property taxes and use it for some other crazy spending spree that they want to. I'll bring you in on this, Bill. You're in this. We're in. Can you? Is the dual box on the television screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
You know, I think the way you look at it, you've already paid tax. First of all, there's some issues about double taxation.
Oh, we get that all the time. Triple, quadruple taxation.
Right. Because you pay a tax when you buy a house, which is rolled into your mortgage, and then on top of that, now you're going to be taxed every.
Push the button on your mic so that we've got you on, since we're going to have you talk. All right.
You know, every month then you are going to be paying a tax on a tax you've already paid when you bought the house. So there's some questions about whether this is double taxation, and I've even heard rumors about class action suits with the citizens of Ohio against the state to try to recoup money that's been, well, again, 2001, the state Supreme Court said, no, you cannot use property taxes to fund schools.
What was their reasoning in saying
that? Well, I'm going to leave that to Tammy when she gets here.
Tammy's your guest that's coming in.
Yeah, Tammy Murphy from Real Homes to Love. That is in Centerville, Ohio.
Oh, she's in Centerville?
Yeah, she's in
I
Centerville.
She was coming out of Columbus.
No, that's why this was a more convenient situation for her. And so she's been working with, and let me get the guy's name here, but there's a gentleman up in Mentor, Ohio, which is pretty Brian Massey. He is collecting the petitions, and Brian and her have been working with a group called Axe Ohio Tax. It's a website that anybody can go to. Matter of fact, you can find petitions there. if you would want to go around and
So is this group specific to property tax elimination?
Yeah.
They're not any of the groups that are interested in eliminating state income tax?
No, this is just strictly
This is just
property.
property tax.
And you think about it, Tammy's a realtor,
Right,
so it directly affects her business.
absolutely.
And the slowdown that she's seen in talking to her has been pretty amazing. So what, they're trying to regenerate some interest in people owning homes. And right now that's not happening because it's just
Dean Thompson says,
hey, Dean, how you doing? Long time. But it's a situation where people, you're getting held hostage until you die, basically.
Sure.
And you're renting it from the state. You've bought it. You've bought your house.
Exactly, but you don't own the property because the property literally, like you say, you're leasing, renting, whatever. You're paying, a monthly,
Right.
semi-annual or annual payment
Right.
in order to hang on to it. Because if you don't, they're going to take it from you.
Right. And, there's been those groups who obviously say it every day, who are against private property ownership throughout the United States. And part of that is that they want to drive people into cities to pay rent. So the only way you could do that, the reason people own homes is it's cheaper for you to live in a home
Oh, absolutely.
than it is to watch rent go from $1,500 a month to $1,700 to $2,000, wherever it goes. I mean, there's people in New York City, they were talking about $35,000 a month.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I can't even comprehend that.
And it's not just places like New York City. I know I was looking at rentals or what the cost of renting just in Austin, Texas.
Right.
So you're thinking about, okay, well, it's a big city like
Yeah.
Columbus,
Right.
Ohio,
It's
but
college town.
rents there can be $8,000, $9,000 a month.
Yeah.
To live in the downtown area of Austin.
Yeah, and so they wonder why there's so many homeless people. I mean, I don't want to directly point to the price of real estate for that, but I do want to say that a lot of people are homeless because they have to make a choice between buying food and buying clothes, and maybe they have some kids they have to take care of, and purchasing a house or renting an apartment, and they can't do it. So those are just things that, Tammy's going to address with the property tax thing. And the key thing is that, I'll emphasize this a couple times today, is that this is going to be a May ballot issue. It will not get on for November. Tammy will talk
And
about
is that just the timing of it, or was it? I know that
they just didn't get enough signatures based on the percentage they have to have of the.
So, do you think this would hurt or help coming out in May rather than being November? And the reason I ask that is because oftentimes, if someone wants to sort of slip something through and get it passed,
Yep.
fewer people show up in May than they do in November
Yep.
because normally you're not electing a lot of people.
Yeah, that's
So could
very
this be
true.
helpful if you're trying to get it passed? To have
If we-
fewer people show up to the poll to get it passed?
If we spread the word. And that's why I'm going to emphasize people pay attention. When you sign this petition, and there's going to be people, what kind of job? Probably people that work in the government.
Exactly.
And, New York is a celebrity city.
Right.
So when they're paying that kind of money.
Sure. And big cities like LA and New York, but we're seeing this happen in places, like Wilmington, Ohio. Rents have skyrocketed.
Right. Well, they
You know,
wanted.
people might have been paying $600, $700, $800 a month. They're now paying $600, $700, $1,800 a month.
Well, the powers that be don't want people living in Wilmington, Ohio. They want people living in Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, and under those circumstances, that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
Because people are going to say, well, they make it cheaper, and we've got Joe Holdren. There he is. They make it cheaper for these people to live in a city situation, or at least equal. And it's the what do they call them?
Gulags?
Yeah, well, yeah, they are actually green cities.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have everything. Matter of fact, there's a place I believe in Cincinnati, apartment building, where on the first floor, they have stores.
Right.
And on the second floor, they've got groceries. And then everybody lives above that. And so they don't want you going out of your apartment.
I think that a lot of that is appealing to younger people that like to live in downtown.
Yeah.
They find it very convenient to have everything in the building that they live in.
Right.
And for those people, they should be able to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, for the people like Vicki Kendall that watch our show every day,
right.
Vicki is a farmer, and so they want to farm the land. They don't want to be forced
right.
into bigger cities. Just because the government thinks that it's a lot easier for them to keep track of us, because we're like one of the cattle, that
right.
we're being herded into these cities to have to live there.
Except the state wants to take that right away from you. They don't want, we see farmland disappearing all through the United
sure.
States. And a lot of the, Bill Gates, that's his new hobby, is collecting farmland. He did that with pharmaceutical companies back in 2001. And we've kind of seen what's happened with pharmaceuticals, and he wants to buy up all the farmland so he can control that too. And they'll control, if they can control your medicine, they can control what you eat, they can control where you live.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what the Constitution says about your rights.
Well, that's sort of a side shoot of global warming. If
yeah.
they can convince everybody that global warming is something that we have to fear, then what next will they force us into doing?
And that's kind of falling apart right now for a lot of them. It isn't follow the science; it's follow what I say, and so that's the problem. But let's get Joe Holdren in here.
Yeah, we'll take a break, and we will be back. And Joe Holdren will be at the table with Mr. Boney and Bill Raybeck, and that's Mr. Boney.
Yeah.
And Joe will be at the table, and then soon your guest will be
Tammy
at the
Murphy
top of the
should
hour.
be here pretty soon.
All right.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Welcome to downtown Wilmington, Ohio, the place to be. Experience something new with your family and friends in this vibrant and family-friendly historic district. When it comes to dining, shopping, and entertainment, downtown Wilmington has it all. From quick bites to high-end diners, we have a variety of food options to satisfy your taste buds. Explore our artisan boutique shops, jewelers, and florists for unique finds. Pamper yourself with soothing spa treatments, rejuvenating massages, and stylish haircuts at our top-notch studios. Dive into the world of art with our captivating galleries, and catch a show at the historic Murphy Theater featuring awe-inspiring performances and cultural events. Immerse yourself in history by visiting our iconic landmarks, such as the Murphy Theater, historic General Denver Hotel, our Cultural History Center, and beautifully preserved historic architecture. Throughout the year, Main Street Wilmington hosts a variety of exciting events that embody the spirit of our town. From the Hometown Holodazzle Illuminated Parade to the family-friendly Halloween event and our lively wine walk, there's always something fun happening. Additionally, the Convention and Visitors Bureau presents a summer concert series featuring the annual Rock the Block, and we also have our weekly farmers market. We boast a designated outdoor refreshment area where you can purchase alcoholic beverages and carry them as you explore the town. So what are you waiting for? Plan your next weekend getaway in downtown Wilmington. Head over to mainstreetwilmington.com for all the latest updates on events, dining, shopping, and entertainment. Downtown Wilmington, Ohio is the place to be. We extend our gratitude to Ralph's American Grill, World Equestrian Center, and R&L Carriers for their sponsorship that supported the creation of this video.
Roller Haven is located at 1640 U.S. Highway 22 Northwest, Washington Courthouse, Ohio. The perfect place for a day out with the family, birthday parties, and even an organization event or fundraiser. Check out our website, rollerhavenwch.com, or give us a call at 740-335-6481, and we can help plan your event. We look forward to seeing you there.
All right, we're back. And Mr. Boney is at the table. We're going to have our discussion shortly about doing away with property taxes. Joe Holdren is here in studio along with Bill Raybeck. People are going to get hungry without the farmer. That's true. My farm does not have a price on it. It's my dirt. Yep. And although you obviously do have a price on it because you pay tax on that dirt, and it's getting to be some pretty expensive dirt, particularly. Did you get a hold of her?
I can get hold of her. She probably won't answer me. She's driving.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye because she's probably, if she has a clue as to where we are, she might be walking up and down the front like you were.
I'm going to send her a text.
Yeah. Right. It's actually, this is the Murphy's Intermission Bar. So people come in here in between.
I noticed. I've never been in.
Yeah, never been in the Murphy Theater?
10 years I've lived here.
Well, 107 years old. Yeah, and we're grateful that we're able to broadcast Wake Up Wilmington from the Murphy.
Did you hear about the bill that they passed that no more farmland was going to be allowed to be sold to foreigners?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I got a deal on here. I can show it to you.
So this is what they're attempting to get passed. Whether they actually do or not, I don't know. Whether, it'll be sued. They will sue against something like that. They'll say that it's discriminatory to people in other countries not being able to buy American farmland. But I think they're doing this because we're seeing that, like China, and they're buying the property not so much just because they want to own the property. They just want to get close to
Hello.
American Air Force and military bases,
Right.
so they can spy a lot easier on them.
Well, from the report I got, they also are going to, through eminent domain, take the land away from China as well, that they've
Well,
already purchased.
And certainly they probably could, if that was included in the bill and it passed, they could go back and reclaim that land as long as they gave them fair market value, for the property. They should be able to reclaim that. The main thing that we have to be careful of is that they don't get crazy and start using eminent domain to take, and they've done this in the past, to take property they're not supposed to be taking, because there's downsides to everything. There's pluses, there's
Well,
minuses.
I agree with that, but I don't think that's the intentions of our president. He's just trying to make the country great again,
Good morning.
Good morning.
and the land should never
So
been.
you're the troublemaker, huh?
I might be. Depends on my company.
I'm Rick.
Hey, Rick.
And this is Joe Holden.
Hi,
Yeah.
Tammy.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm going to put it on the camera facing Mr. Boney and the table. That's Mr. Boney, by the way, sitting there. You'll sit behind Mr. Boney, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right in the middle.
That's right. And Joe, or maybe Bill. Bill, I'll give you. I'm taking this camera out.
Okay.
So you can slip your camera in there and position it whatever way you want for your stream. I've also got candy.
'Tis the season for all the candy, right?
Oh yeah, Wilmington had we had a thing where all the merchants and various entities passed out candy this past weekend. Kids came downtown; they were all over the place downtown, and got their free candy and that. And the Murphy, we passed out 800 little tiny bags of popcorn.
Oh, wow.
So there were a lot of people. There were a lot of people downtown. Yes, there were. Yeah. Anyway, so we are live. So
We are live.
yes, we are. We are live.
Wow,
We
okay.
are on We're on YouTube, and
Is there a way to share this on YouTube on my phone? Or
yeah, if you go to YouTube, there's a share button. You just share it, and you can share it to whoever you want to share it to, or you can share it to everybody.
after you're talking about after the show or before or during?
You
the
can
show?
share it right now, live. So if you've got people that you want to watch
I do
it
not.
live,
Do not.
and if not, yeah. Now, and this will also be uploaded to Facebook after the show.
Okay.
So it will be available on Facebook for you to share if it's a little easier for you to navigate Facebook. We're on YouTube because it's the best streaming platform
course,
to be on
yeah.
as far as the. And Vicki Kendall says, "Yeah, but I'm keeping my dirt. They're not making any more out of it." Vicki Kendall's one of our regular viewers, and so she's commenting. She's live online. She's commenting. So this will be an interactive thing. So, and she's a farmer here in Clinton County, wanting to keep her dirt.
Of course.
And we're talking about property tax and how people can lose the family farms or other
Yep, understand.
property.
It's RH2L, but it stands for Real Homes to Love, so.
Now, is there information on your website as far as this drive to eliminate property tax?
So on my
is there
YouTube
more
channel.
information
My YouTube channel for sure.
for your YouTube channel? And
Yes.
what you can do is you can actually go on our stream. If you log into Wake Up Wilmington on the stream, you can actually put your information right there on the stream, phone numbers, whatever, or even your YouTube channel.
Okay.
So that you can have people watch your YouTube channel when they
Right.
get done watching Wake Up Wilmington and give you more information. Because I know there are a lot of people, particularly people that are of retirement age, but even younger people that are looking forward to not having to pay property tax the rest of their lives.
It's a very big topic.
Yeah.
She ought to feel right at home here with the last name Murphy.
Now,
There's a lot
there's a button
There's
on
no relation, honestly,
Joe,
so.
reach over and
Oh,
touch. Yeah, there we go. So microphones are on. Although those mics have already picked you up, so
Okay.
you're already. But
Are we actually live right now?
yes, you are live. You're live. This is a laid back
Oh,
morning show.
that's us right there.
Yes.
well, I see the monitor. I didn't realize it was actually people out there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that-
hot mics.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we've had those happen before. Sometimes we go down the rabbit hole. It's not pretty.
Sounds like my kind of place.
Hey Vicky, do I look okay? I just wondered,
Oh, you fishing for compliments, Joe?
Got to get all I can nowadays.
Yeah. You got it locked in, Bill?
No.
No? You're doing a Facebook Live, aren't you? Oh. You would think of all these years you guys have been working with me, you'd finally pick up some of this technology.
It seems like it's always changing.
Well, that's true. It is.
Yeah.
Well, we were having issues with the software that we lease in order to stream, and there was a major change about a week ago that YouTube did, which is our main platform. We've been streaming on YouTube for 15, 16 years because we do a sports broadcast. We do sports all over the state. Anyway, they made a major change at the very same day that our vendor made a major change on their software.
Nice.
So we were having issues with getting connected for about a week.
It was a true test.
They finally resolved it. So, because you're sort of dead in the water when you can't, when they're not talking to each other. Here's your compliment, Joe. She says, "You look great." What else would she
See,
tell
so
you?
now you know they're listening.
I know. I see that. Let's just hope it's a good day and everybody's in a good mood, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think most people, when we have this kind of subject matter, would be in a good mood if they think that we might be able to, I'm trying to remember. I know it was almost maybe $3,000 every 6 months that when we had the family, we only had 7 acres here in Clinton County, but we were paying that kind of money in property tax. And they even, we had a private lane that,
There's a pesky fly.
you got a fly that's.
It's really, yep, it's testing me.
It's, yeah, well, anyway, we even paid for the private lane to connect the houses that were on the private lane. And we tried to get them to charge that off as, you know, because these were all fairly large pieces of property, some of them 20, 40 acres. And we had probably one of the smallest parcels at 7, but still they wanted to charge our lane like people were, you know, actually there were houses on it and there weren't. So it, you know, and I was telling Bill that I've heard that there are entities that are now being hired by the state and by local governments and that to fight people objecting to the property tax. It used to be if you objected to what you were paying, they'd usually, you know, okay, we'll give you, you know, we'll cut it back a little, give you a break, whatever. They're not doing that anymore. And part of it may just be because they don't, you know, they don't want to give you any tax money back. But
It's true.
there's all kinds of bizarre things going on. Well, anyway, it's 9:05. We can actually start this formally. You want to introduce everybody, Bill?
Okay. My guest today is Tammy Murphy from Real Homes to Love Realty. And now you're located in Centerville?
My office is in Centerville, yes.
Okay.
So
And so, I'm not sure, Tammy, as far as you are working for the elimination of property tax in the state of Ohio.
well,
Or what to
so,
get an amendment put on the Constitution.
right. So I'm a realtor. So I've been in real estate for 24 plus years.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
I have experience with the process of buying and selling properties, helping people to do all the things they want to do with their home. But most importantly, I serve as an advocate for people's home ownership rights. And that is how this has really come to fruition. There's a fly that's going to keep on with me, isn't there?
Joe's going to get his
He's
bow and
gonna
arrow
have
out.
When I'm swatting, it's not because I really don't, I'm using my hands that much.
Bring your fly swatter?
I did not, sorry.
Well, that fly, they say they only live like, what, 30 days or what? That fly's lived here for about 6 months, I
It
think.
hasn't gotten cold enough to
Probably
do
not.
the job.
Probably not.
So.
Maybe we should
Unless
open
Mike
the door.
DeWine has a drone in here.
But this property tax situation, you know, it has kind of escalated to the point where in real estate, we talk about, well, prices have gone up and people were pushing back and maybe it was too costly for them to get into buying a home, right? And then you had the high interest rates. All of a sudden they went from 3 to 7 to 8%, and people were like, well, wait a minute, maybe I can't really afford to buy houses. The reality is people still need to buy and sell houses, right? There comes a time when you just have to do it, you bite the bullet and you make it happen. Well, we now have seen we still have the higher prices, we still have the higher interest rates, but this escalation of property taxes is the thing that has stopped a lot of people. And here is the reality of it, is that it is across all demographics. It's affecting everybody. It's affecting long-term holders of the property, family lines, they've had it in the years for decades. It's affecting new buyers. So somebody coming in who does all of their due diligence, they do their homework, they get qualified for a loan, they save their money, they work hard, they pay it off. But over the years, these property taxes have just continued to escalate. That's the issue that I have, is that I can't support when it feels like the system isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So they want to say, well, property taxes fluctuate because of value. Well, baloney. I did catch myself since we're live. Baloney, because I went back to research, and when the market absolutely bottomed out in our communities, 2008 to 2012, there was not an extensive relief in property taxes. My property taxes, as a matter of fact, have gone up every year since day one. And so that proves to me that their system is geared to always collect money. And we have allowed this to go on. So property taxes have been going on in Ohio since day one, right? And a little here and a little there. And what they don't tell you is that some of these levies are forever levies. I found this out the hard way. Before my home was even constructed, when I look on my tax distribution, the levy distribution on it, it has property taxes for the school board for before my home was built. Now I wasn't the owner, but I called and I said, what is going on with this? Oh, that's considered a forever tax. And so it will go on retroactive to any of the homes. And I am like, what in the world? Where did we sign up for this? We, the people, did not sign up for this. And so this is why you can see I'm already animated and we're here not even 5 minutes into this conversation. But that's the problem. It's the reality of that we're continuing to pay more and more and more, and I don't get to control my budget anymore. I now have to adjust my living, my medical or my health or my groceries. I cut back on all of my things because I have a higher property tax bill.
Because you're a slave to the state.
That's ridiculous.
Right.
That is not what we signed up for. And that is why the people are really reaching out. And I joined on, to eliminate property taxes because it makes sense. I need to speak to that.
Now, this is called Axe Ohio Tax. Is that if people are looking for a website or information, that's where I found the petitions and went there. You had sent that to me.
Right.
And so that's what I was trying to get to the people is there's a website that they can go to find out more information and if they want to get involved.
Correct. And so it started with Citizens for Property Tax Reform. So Citizens for Property Tax Reform is how it started.
Right.
That's who generated the original petition. And then Axe Ohio Tax, so it's AXOHTAX.com, is where they have the list of people who are willing to do the petition signings. And there wasn't anybody at the time. This was back in July, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm in Montgomery County, which happens to be so close to all of these other surrounding counties that I can do this. And so I just signed up to be a petition collector.
Right.
It's not a big deal. Anybody can do it.
No, it's not.
We can't do it online. It has to be in person, right? And that's the stipulation. The in-person petition signing has to take place.
And they have to be voters.
They have to be registered to vote.
Right.
Correct.
And so I'm going to let Tammy get back into this. Joe's over here. Joe Holdren's joining me here. We, of course, did the Razor's Edge for many years down here before I decided to go and retire. So, but
And leave us.
Get out of Dodge.
But Tammy, this is something that as soon as I saw you on, and you've got a bunch of videos on YouTube. So if you want to see more of Tammy's comments on this after today, go to YouTube, look it up.
Real Homes to Love channel is there, and we're just really, and we get a lot of questions, and I'm telling you, I've been in this business for a long time, and I've heard stories, and I've been involved trying to help people in bad situations to get out of it, right? But this is heartbreaking to an extent that I don't think our county officials understand how everybody is impacted by this. People who are losing their homes in a matter of this without going through a court process like they would if they were delinquent on their mortgage. How do you just take the home and you're taking the value of an asset that isn't equal to the property tax delinquency?
Right.
So for $8,000, I'm going to lose my family home. Are you kidding me?
Especially after you've paid it off, right?
Especially after you've paid it off. Right. There is just no way that should be legal. And I'm not an attorney, so I'm going to preface that. I am not an attorney. I don't have any legal rights to say anything about right or wrong. I don't have the right to say what's legal or not legal, right? But I can give you my opinion. As somebody who's been in this business, I'm very well aware of what the process is, and that's where it's not correct.
Well, let's jump into some of the stuff that I had sent you.
Okay.
One of the things that people don't know, I did, I know you do, people that are kind of politically aware know that this has been ruled unconstitutional by the Ohio Supreme Court, correct?
Well,
property tax.
So that's
funding schools.
It's a technicality, yes.
Okay.
So it is regarding the schools' funding that it's unconstitutional. Okay. That was ruled in 1997.
Oh, was that far? I thought it was
1997 was when that ruling took place.
Okay.
And what happened is because it was how the schools were being funded.
Okay.
We don't know if there was officially a change. However, there has been a change. Now, this is not a constitutional change for our Ohio Constitution, but we know that when they start talking about these 20 mil levies, the additional funds to go to the school. So I think that's their workaround, because our Constitution says that our property taxes are not to exceed 10 mil. So if our Constitution says 10 mil, and I'm doing all the math, and why am I having to pay all of this extra?
The additional.
It's the extra that they've
millage,
added. They codified this. They didn't change the law. They just put a caveat in there. And I think that's what we need to do, is we need to start calling them out on how are you doing this? How is this right? How is it legal? But I'm not an attorney, so I can't say that it's illegal, right?
Yeah. So I know one of the questions has been, and I know we talked briefly about this, that, well, how come that the Ohio General Assembly hasn't done something about this? And I said, well, there are some things going on, but all of them are kind of skirting around the main issue.
Yeah.
And so why don't you talk about that, is what Mike DeWine, I know, and I sent the one to you. The one proposal was to, well, we're going to say if you're over 60, you don't have to pay property tax. But then I'm finding out that they're going to backload the tax when you sell it, and it's going to go to the next owner.
Well,
So-
and this is very important, because we are getting ready to do a vote, right? November is coming up, and there are levies, there are decisions that need to be made, there are local positions that are being filled, right? And I want to encourage everybody to absolutely do their homework before you go in to vote, because the wording on the ballot is very specific and it's confusing. It's designed to be confusing. Now, they've had bills to say we need to clean up our language, and it needs to be yes means yes and no means no, instead of reversing that.
Right.
I don't know that we've seen that actually happen for that reason.
Right.
Because they tell us one thing, that this is, and that sounds like what we want, but then in reality, there's a back door, and that back door creates a bigger problem than the other way. So we have been talking about property taxes and doing something to fix them for a year. For years,
well,
right?
30 years, probably close to it.
Yeah, I would say decades, but honestly, it's been the focus of our association of realtors to say, hey, we need to be lobbying for this, because this is affecting home ownership rights. And so when we start seeing that, we go in and we try to have the conversations. That conversation, and they kick the can down the road. So one side of the House will vote on it, the Senate will vote on it, or the House votes on it, but they don't get together, right? I don't know if they're ever in session at the same time. I mean, it must be great to have that kind of a job. But the reality is that they've tried to do something.
Right.
They've passed things, but then never enacted it. And I'm like, how is this even possible? So all the things that they could have done were temporary fixes. They were Band-Aids.
Right.
All of the counties would make a recommendation, send it to the House to get it voted on, and then, okay, well, I've got partisan collection here, we'll do this, but then it doesn't go any further. So they never resolved it, which is why it really was a sticking point when there were 4 items that were included on our state budget this year that Governor DeWine vetoed. He made an unnecessary call to himself that I'm deliberately vetoing these items specific to property taxes. Now he says, oh, well, I want to get a special group in there to look at it. That special group and their report is baloney. I'm just going to use that word today. It's unrealistic, right? They try to give a good answer, but then they have that backdoor approach. And so when I did my review of that, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, can you just say, if our homestead exemption is basically the first $28,000 that is not taxed, that's a drop in the bucket for most people.
Sure.
When you're talking about properties that have gone from, let's call it from a $50,000 value to a $200,000 value. Well, if there's a 4-time there, why isn't there a 4-time with your homestead exemption? I don't know. It seems like some easy answers are out there, and they just have avoided it.
Right.
It's like if it's an easy answer, it's wrong. But the fact is if we raised our homestead exemption, that gives people the ability to continue to stay there, right? If my property taxes are now not $28,000 but $100,000, that helps offset some of that market growth, right? And to me, that makes a little bit of sense.
Sure.
It's not the full answer. And here's the thing. Since they have kicked this can down the road for so many years, we aren't just going to accept a little piecemeal answer. We want actual change. We want to know that nobody is going to lose their home because of property taxes. If I want to sell my home, I should be able to sell my home and make some money, pay off the debts, and do what I need to do. But I should never be able to lose my home over $8,000 or $10,000 or $30,000 or whatever it is,
Right.
because I've paid it off, I've done my due diligence, and you're telling me my property taxes take my home.
Right.
If it takes my home, then give me back my $150,000. Pay off the debt, but give me my balance. And
Right.
that's not what they're doing.
Right, right. Well, and that kind of leads into this question is why we're going for a constitutional amendment opposed to relying on our legislators to go in and solve this. So why don't you talk about the constitutional amendment aspect to this?
Right. Well, and obviously our legislators have shown us that we can't trust them to solve the problem, right? They have fouled it up for years. And if there were anybody who was really stepping forward to say, here's how we can address this situation, here's what we need to do, then maybe we have a chance. But it's so 88 counties in Ohio, that means there's 88 auditors that are in the mix of this, right? But the state is who controls how property tax is allowed. So the state sets the rules, and then your municipalities have to see the process. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to account for it and all of that. So that's why it requires a constitutional change. Our Constitution is limited, and it says 10 mil. So if they change that, unless it's voted on, that's how they use the levies. And so if we want to say, no, there's a hard end to this, we have no more property tax to personal home residences, because they're still going to charge businesses, they're going to still charge investment properties, all of that. But at least give home ownership the opportunity to maybe not have property taxes, then that has to be a constitutional change.
And that's an important thing, because I know a lot of people have cried the blues about, well, what are we going to do about the schools? What are we going to do about safety services? What are we going to do, well, they said, what about business? And this one particular person was talking about, well, no one's going to want to come to Ohio if we do this, because I said, well, why? I mean, what? And I know we'll talk about this in a little bit, but they led into the sales tax thing and said, well, that's going to chase everybody away. But why don't you go ahead and talk about that with some of the fears that are being projected? And you talked about the county auditors. One county auditor says, well, what are we going to do? We won't have any money if we don't do this. And my one friend who was talking to this guy said, well, you've had 30-some years to figure this out.
Right. Well, and longer in most cases.
Yeah.
So the reality is that here's the thing. When this really started, before it became a crisis, and I'm calling it a crisis now because when I hear the number of people who are in this situation about to lose their home over their property tax, that's a serious situation, right? I'm a single person in my real estate company, and I'm getting this kind of contact. That means it's extrapolated, and it's a bigger issue. And this is what is really upsetting, that our legislators are failing to see how much of an impact this is. So, let me go back to the question.
Do we have a decision?
It's getting hot in here. Huh? So, I keep looking. I try to get you into this conversation. It is so. It's really frustrating for the process, because this isn't what it's supposed to be about. And so when people will say, okay, well, I can't afford the property taxes in Montgomery County, so I'm going to sell my house here and I'm going to move to Warren County. I've had a number of people do this. Guess what? When Warren County caught up, because they don't all do it at the same time, Warren County taxes then became higher. And they're like, well, I shouldn't have moved. You can't move to solve the problem, right? And so someone who's saying, well, everybody will leave Ohio, people are leaving Ohio now. So we have Florida, Texas, and Ohio, the three big states that are right now talking about property tax relief. The first one to actually abolish property taxes is going to get an influx of people, because everybody's going to say, you know what, that's enough of a difference for me to go there.
Sure.
They do it for the weather.
Right.
They've done it for income tax purposes.
That's right.
So what makes you think that they're not going to go because of property taxes? This is the lack of oversight and fiduciary responsibility that our legislators, our auditors, they're failing, because they should be seeing if we continue to overcharge and don't give any relief to our homeowners, one, they're not going to fix up their properties because it makes it look like there's improvement. Two, they're not going to be able to afford it, so they're going to have to sell, and then what? You just think somebody's going to come in here? This has taken such a turn that people are looking at property taxes. So now it is in the equation,
Right.
and you have to qualify for your house to buy it unless you're paying cash. If you're getting a loan, you're qualified to buy that house at that point based on the purchase price, based on your income, and based on the property taxes. So if the property taxes are part of that initial equation to qualify for the home, how dare they go back and then change that and escalate it to where I can't afford it? Because that's not fair.
Right.
You've just cost me out of my home, and it wasn't at my doing, it's at your doing. So give me the numbers. If you want to talk budgets and what money you actually need, they
Yeah.
need to be giving us those numbers. Because the report was there's $10.5 billion in excess in our school boards.
Yeah, I have heard that.
So if there's excess money, you need to be accounting for that. Why wasn't that returned to us? If I overpay my income tax, IRS will send me a check.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be little, but at least I will get something back.
Right.
Or the state of Ohio will send me my money back. We've never gotten money back from our county auditors for property taxes, for overpayment of the levies, for anything. They collect the money, they take the money, they have no accounting to us, and then they want more. That's what's broken.
You know, and it's interesting when people want to point to people not wanting to come to Ohio or won't come to Ohio. I happen to know a former Cleveland Brown that played back in the 80s. Could have moved to California, could have moved to a lot of different New York, wherever the cosmopolitan areas were. He said to me, he said, even professional athletes look at the affordability of where you're at. And he said, my dollar goes farther in Cleveland, Ohio, than it goes if I lived in Los Angeles or New York.
Yeah.
And he says, so that's why you see a lot of professional athletes, and we don't know this, but he said there's a lot of professional athletes that play sports in Ohio that don't leave the state because it's more affordable to live here. And, you know, these people are making millions of dollars. They're
Sure.
not making $60,000 or $100,000 a year. These people are making millions, and even they are looking at it and saying this is a better place. But if we don't change the property tax idea, we're going to lose those people too.
Well, and so the thing is that compared to other parts of the country, Ohio is a lower cost of living, right?
Absolutely.
So that's still a true statement, even with the high property taxes. But the problem is that those people who are from here, those of us who were born and raised and had our lands and our properties and all of that, what we have felt is this escalation and nothing coming back. And so while it may be less expensive than if I lived in California, New York, or anywhere else, I live here. And so now you've changed my perspective of my home state because you've continued to take and take and take. Instead of having these conversations, why aren't our auditors having conversations? Well, the odd thing is, they are now. You're hearing about
Yeah,
these stories
because they know what's going
because
on.
we have continued to apply this pressure. Instead of going away when we didn't make the mid-year, when we didn't make the ballot this November, we could just say, okay, we're done, we're giving up. No, we're continuing to get the signatures so that we can be on the May ballot. And the May ballot is really a good timing because that's mid-year. And that means if you haven't been doing your job, we're probably going to vote you out. You deserve to lose that position because you haven't worked for us. You work for us, the people, and you have failed to give us any response. You have failed to give reform. You have failed to give us answers. You're not giving us transparency of the budgets. If you showed us that the schools actually only have this much money in their coffers and that it takes this much money and we're going to have to lose our educators as a result of this, right? Or we're going to have to charge per student. There's going to have to be some kind of a fee. Then we as people can figure out what's right, what we need to do. The fact that we don't get that information and it's every time you turn around, there's another levy put on the board. How mismanaged are you that every year you have to ask for more money?
Right.
Why are you not cutting something? And I don't mean cutting the students' benefits. I mean you cutting your overhead. Why are you doing interior decorating? Why are you spending this much on retreats? I mean,
Well,
I could go through it.
Why does some, you know, being a former educator, the question I would have is, why do you have 3 superintendents?
Correct.
Or why do you have 5 principals in a school? And trust me, I understand the discipline thing in schools is an issue, but their salaries are definitely inflated. I mean, I think people would be shocked to see how much money superintendents and principals are getting. And it's the teachers are the ones that get hurt in that process because they're the ones that they're going to go to the bottom, you know, the lowest rung, and take that rung out before they're going to hurt themselves. So I think that's a great point. Is we have to hold these people accountable. We should know if you're going to hire a superintendent, this is what we're hiring them for, and that should be public knowledge before anybody signs on to hiring these people.
Well, and the other thing about that, and I'm an advocate for this across the board, if you don't do your job, you don't get to stay in the position.
Right.
I mean, if you really flub it up in your first year and you have overspent the budget and you have no accounting, you're out. You don't get a 5-year contract. I mean, good grief. Why do we sign up and say somebody gets a lifetime of work out of this?
Right.
You do the job, then yes, I want you to stay there. But if you don't do the job, then you're out.
Yep. Let's move a little bit into the petition aspect of it. How are we doing so far? You said that, we didn't have enough for November, but looking at the numbers where we're going, what do you think by May? Are we going to get that on?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Here is what we're saying is that we're not telling you how many numbers we have. Because that gives them a chance to think how many they have to throw out. So in all fairness, we're going to continue to take signatures through the end of this year.
Okay.
And then that way, January, everything is submitted, everything can be certified. They're going to do their thing, but we are working diligently to have well more than enough, okay? So the big thing is that we have to have at least 44 of our counties, that's half of our counties, have to be represented. And from there, then we have to have that 413,000 number, whatever that is, right? It sounds like it's a lot. It's not. It's not a lot. And it's very easy to get that number when you're talking about something that is affecting everybody.
Right.
I get calls from a lot of counties around, and if they don't have a signing station, I try to figure out how can I get them to sign. Right. I've gone and followed the UPS driver so that he can sign on his route. I've gone into businesses so that all of their workers could sign.
Sure.
I'm in Centerville, which is really easy for a lot of people to get there, but I'm off and running all the time. So it's not a problem for me to collect signatures. I can verify that you as a person are presented to me. That's all I have to do. You fill out the form the way that you're registered, and that's that simple. It takes you 30 seconds, maybe a minute.
Matter of fact, I don't know if they can see this, but I've got one here. This is what the petition looks like, and it looks very much like the voting register when you go in to vote.
Yeah, and you're just filling out the one little section, your name, your address, and then your signature.
Right up here. And you need to sign it the way it appears on your ID, and make sure that you get the date right. Make sure that
you don't abbreviate the street or name.
Right. Keep everything as official as possible. And because they'll throw it out for anything they can get.
Which is why we're going to have more.
Right.
We're going to have more so that we know that they're going to do that. They're going to try to do that. We're going to have more than enough so that they can't say, well, you didn't meet the limit. We have the limit. We're going to be good.
Well, don't you think the problem that we're having is that we're voting people in there that are in there for themselves and not for us?
Of course.
And they're setting their own pay raises. I've never voted for a pay raise for anybody in office.
Well, you don't have to.
They'll take care of that.
So if they need more money,
they just write it in there.
They just write it in and they get more money.
Right.
And that's part of the transparency issue.
It's almost like a little bit of Caesar came over on the Mayflower. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and when we look at that whole thing, I think the thing about this petition drive and being a May election, we know historically that the off-season elections, May and August, tend to don't do as well. Only the people that have a vested interest are the ones.
Right. Well, and so that was, here's the thing. They think they know what they're doing, but we have really figured out what they've been doing, right? Mm-hmm. We get what they're doing with sliding these levies in there when they do, and there's so much on the ballot, and you can't take, people don't take the time to read. They go into the booth and so But that special election that came up in August a couple of years back, right? 2 topics on there, and they were like, nobody's going to show up. We're going to slide this in there. It's going to go exactly the way we want. Well, people lined up, and people showed up, and the votes were taken. What we learned from that is that regardless of what we vote, local municipalities have the upper hand. So this is key. This is why your vote matters when you go in on November, is because those local municipality people, if they are not on board, if they do not understand, even though we would vote something in at the state level, the municipalities are going to come back and say, oh, well, now here's what we're going to do. So if you don't think they're scrambling right now trying to figure this out, you're missing the real picture that's going on. The auditors are starting to come out, and they're saying, oh, Lucas County, we have an error. We admit 7,000 people filed for their property tax dispute. It took them a year, but they got through everybody. 4,900 taxes were lowered. 1,400 were admitted by the county as being an error because of their computer system. And I'm saying, well,
quite a few.
If there were 1,400 that were in error because of the computer system, there were probably more. They're just saying of the 7,000, this is all we looked at. But that opens the door. In my mind, that opens the door that something wasn't right. And if you just admitted that the system failed, then everybody should be able to file and get that report back, right?
Right.
So if they have $4 million that are coming back to them, nobody's gotten any money that I'm aware of. But the promise is that yes, you were overcharged. If they get money back or if their property taxes get lowered, I need to hear and see that to know that it's legit, right? Because at this point, it's kind of odd that Lucas County comes out, somebody else comes out because they're going to give $2 million back to their farmers. And now Butler County is saying they have $50 million they're going to give back to their residents for property taxes. $50 million? Are we going to get checks for that? Or are you just going to lower the property taxes? And if they're willing now to lower the property taxes as a result of this push, they could have done it sooner. And that would have stopped all of this crisis that we have going on. So if one county can admit, we've overcharged you, we were really good stewards of your money, here's your money back, then I think we should be able to tell all of our counties to do the same.
Right.
At least give us the reports, the budgets.
Sure.
Let us see the numbers.
So I think the thing that people need to take away from this is, I started getting, after I talked with you, I got some, and you can print these petitions off from the website and go around, take them to church. I went to church and I had 10 people sign right then as soon as I talked to them about it. This is not a hard sell type of thing. Some people are going to say no, they don't want to do it. But it's an easy thing to do. A couple things, though. You cannot sign your own petition.
Correct.
So make sure that if you're going to distribute them, find somebody else and sign their petition so that it doesn't get thrown out of there. And, make sure that you remember to vote in May, because that is what they bank on, is that, well, it's a May election. Nobody's going to turn out for this election. And we need to continue to push from this point forward all the way to May and remind all the people that you got to sign, hey, are you going to go out and vote on the first Tuesday of May or whatever the date is on that? So that's an important thing. Other question came up. This guy was a former attorney, and he was asking about double taxation. And he said, you pay taxes when you buy your house. And he said, now you're continuing to pay property taxes. He says, isn't that a form of double taxation? And could there be a class action suit by the citizens of Ohio filed against the state of Ohio on that type of premise?
Well, and if he's an attorney, I would love to have a conversation with him, because that's what I want. I want the attorneys who are out there who realize that this has not been done the way that it's supposed to be done. If they've been violating our Constitution, and they didn't actually codify that additional 20 mil for the school taxes, how are they working around that? Why wasn't that put to a vote for the people? And if it's illegal, if it's unconstitutional, if it's not right, based on the budget, if they submit a budget and they're allowed to exceed that, why isn't there recourse for that?
Right.
So I think there's lots of reasons and ways that we could question the system. you know, when you buy a house, there's a conveyance fee. There's
Right.
There's not
Right.
a specific, we'll call it a property tax. Now there may be if we
Right.
change this, right? And I'm advocating that if you're going to have to charge me when I buy it, charge me when I sell it, because those are two real numbers.
Right.
But what we have going on in the middle is unrealized gain.
Yeah.
And you're charging me for a false number that it doesn't benefit me in any way. If you say my house is worth $300,000, you don't know that I just put every dime I have in it to just make that final repair that you drove by and said, "Oh, well, that's much better. Okay, let's give it $300,000." You have no basis for that. I'm in real estate. I can tell you if I've put that much money
Right.
in there.
Right.
Now, could I sell it for it? Then tax me then. But don't tax me in the middle.
Right.
And here's the other thing, you know, and a lot of people have said, I'm concerned about putting a storage shed in my backyard because they're going to raise my property taxes. I've had a number of people who reached out when they put on the new roof that the next year their property taxes went up. Anything that's perceived as this improvement, the county is using as an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to charge you more.
kinda
That's
like-
not the way that's supposed to be.
It's kind of like having a state HOA.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what do they really want? Do they want us to not take care of the property? Do they want us to have issues? So as a community, we need to understand, if I support my community in everything I do. I'm eating at the groceries, I'm buying groceries, I'm eating at the restaurants, I'm going shopping there, I'm buying my gas there, which is 57 cents a gallon that's going to my roads. So if that isn't sufficient, because I've done quick math, that's a lot of money they collect every single day just from the taxes of the gas. So I think our road system is okay. And there's 15 different levies that are my school levies on my current property. So I have 15 different school board levies that I'm being charged for on my property when I looked at it. I brought it because it's so amazing to me that this distribution of my taxes for my property tax bill, and not everybody's is going to be the same because counties do it differently. But this is an example, and you may not see the detail on here. It's a solid 2 pages of the property taxes.
Right.
So 40% is broken down to the Centerville schools. And then you've got Washington Township, you've got the fire and EMS, you've got the general funds, you've got the county human services, you've got your school libraries, you've got your community college libraries, and you got your metro parks. By the time they are adding it all up, I'm like, I know I didn't vote on 75 different levies.
Right.
So how is this going on there?
Right. Taxation without representation.
It is really, and that's why we really did start talking about, you know, Boston Tea Party happened for a reason.
Yes.
And it was
People got fed up.
really at a different tax amount than what we're dealing with now. I can't imagine what our original founders and citizens of our country
yeah.
would say, realizing that 40% is going where?
Yeah.
I mean, how much are you getting left?
Yeah, I agree. Vicki Kendall, they're going to put an electric line through our farm, a 200-foot swath. We are not allowed to farm that land,
They still have to pay tax on it.
but they still have to pay taxes.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
No.
That easement should be deducted then from your property
Sure.
if they're taking it.
Or let the electric company pay.
Yeah, if you're
Correct.
gonna put a shed and they're gonna charge you more for that, then how come when you take public domain, take this portion of property, how come that's not deducted from it?
Well, or giving them some benefit of a cash payment for their purchase of the
Yeah,
land.
yeah.
I mean, you know, eminent domain is one thing, but the electric thing is a whole nother topic. We know that Ohio has had issues with, right?
Yeah,
But
a little bit.
our township, our city came through with this proposal, and it was really just a letter in the mail that I got, and this started me thinking that they are doing so many things that we are not aware of.
Sure.
But this position of we have negotiated lower power charges for you
Right. Electric
as
bills.
our community, so you get the benefit of it. Well, that's not real. You know
No.
how it is, right?
Yeah.
They're getting a cut of the money that's going for the payment
Right.
because my bills haven't gone down. They've actually gone up.
Right.
But now the city's getting that. So where does that show up on the budget? Are they reducing our property taxes because now they're getting part of our power bill? There's just so many questions.
Yeah. So another thing that people have talked about, how will we pay for the schools, emergency services, local government? And, you know, my response has been, and one of the candidates for governor here, run for DeWine's position, I had stated that, well, we could put a couple cent sales tax, state sales tax on there, and we would make 4 times more money than what we're making right now. And
Currently, right now, is there a list of, because I think, doesn't it vary by county? What do we pay in tax?
well, that was another question.
What does it go to pay? So in some counties, does it pay for the schools and it pay for EMS? And are there other things in other counties that you're paying for
Well, I
your
think-
property taxes?
I think
Is there any standard thing that you can only pay for through property taxes?
I've talked to some people who formerly in government, and they said what they see happening is like where I'm up in Ashtabula, and then we've got Geauga County and Lake. Lake and Geauga are far more expensive to live in than Ashtabula, and that's one of the reasons I moved to Ashtabula is because I didn't want to pay that. But he said if you notice that all the taxes are starting to get similar in all the counties,
Sure.
they're moving to
Once
that
they
direction.
find out that they can squeeze it out of one county, they're going to squeeze it out of, government. They work that way.
Well, if
They're
they
saying,
see,
look what they're doing.
and you're in real estate, so you know this better than us, but you see 5,000 people, like you were talking about, was it Warren County, move into a different county because the tax rates are different. Well, we can't have that happen. We're going to have to change the tax rates so that we keep the people here.
Right.
And so, what would you say to them about a sales tax like that opposed to pay for the services?
Well,
Or
I think it's interesting because, what happens is that we're in this stage of where it's fear mongering, right?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
they're going to throw the schools are going to close, the children are going to be left
No
homeless,
police.
there's not going to be any police. Okay, first of all, it's not realistic. If that's how poorly your budget is and you have not accounted for some adjustments, then shame on you, right? But the more interesting thing I think I would point out here is that with all of this going on, the one thing that Governor DeWine did vote for and pass through is a change to our income tax. So it changed for the services to decrease it from the 3.5% that it is to eventually get down to 2.75. So it's going to be done incrementally. So right now it's going to go from 3.5 to 3.125. And then the next year, 2026, it'll go down, or 2027, it'll go down to that 2.75. So they are clearly not hurting for income tax money,
Right.
or he would not have just reduced that.
Is there a fairer way to tax to get services provided? As an example, people that are employed, people that are younger that are making more money than, let's say, people on a fixed income that's retired, wouldn't it be better to use the income tax to pay the majority of the taxes that we need to operate services and the counties and the cities than, for instance, a property
Sales.
tax, which can be detrimental to homeowners, especially when they're no longer making 6 figures a year in order to be able to? Isn't it better to look at income tax to pay more of these things?
Well, my true, honest opinion about this is that it's going to take a hybrid of all of the things. There is not one easy answer, but it should be a combination of all of that. And I think that a consumption use is something that most of us are absolutely in a line with, right?
So sales tax.
Sales tax, I buy this, I sell this, I'm going to pay a tax.
Mercedes, you pay more tax than if you have a Ford Focus like me.
Correct. Well, and that's just it, right? But it also is that we have taxes that are being collected. I'm a business owner and I'm a homeowner, and I'm being taxed on schools and all of these services twice over.
Sure.
Right.
So at least give me a break on my home where I live, right? Give me some break. But the bigger picture is that the new businesses and the new developments that come in, they get all the tax breaks. They get these special incentives.
Right.
Well, that's ass backwards.
Yeah.
Because they're getting money in order to do this, right? But they're going to make the money off of what they're doing. So it doesn't make sense to give them the benefit of not charging them taxes. They will still build the houses if you charge them taxes on
they're
it.
not going anywhere.
But why give them the tax break and then your people in the community suffer? So if you took those special interest taxes, those incentives that you give there, and instead of 10-year tax break, you could make it a 5-year tax break and give the other 5-year benefit to your homeowners that are in that community that are now going to be charged more because now the building across the street is more expensive.
Yeah. Well,
And the schools suffer a lot because
schools
of these tax
suffer.
breaks that they give,
Yeah.
construction people that are wanting to come in.
It's
I
hurt
understand
schools
we need
tremendously.
homes and we need communities built and things like that. That brings in more people, that brings in more tax. So like you say, I think it's going to have to be a hybrid where some people are going to have to give up
Yeah.
these benefits that they're getting, and they can't just expect to get everything.
Well, and here's the thing, the homestead exemption is if you're at a certain age and you have a certain income. It's not across the board. So let's be clear about that. Not everybody gets that.
Right.
So even though I'm a homeowner and it's my primary residence, I don't get that benefit, right? So I've already paid into this system 20, 30 years before I maybe qualify to get it. Well, that seems like you should be doing something more for me.
right.
Because you probably have put that money in the bank and are collecting compounding interest. So again, I come back to, if you want us to have a real conversation, then you need to be giving us the real numbers. And you need to be transparent about that, because I can't expect you to set budget for my household if you don't know what I'm dealing with.
Right.
But you're expecting us to pay for your budget and we don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it means that
it
you
makes-
have to have some transparency.
True. And, the consumption tax, too, which some people don't think about, is big box items. My brother, who used to be a wholesale car purchaser, he'd go to Detroit, he'd go wherever he could to get the best deal. Well, that will happen here. If somebody from Michigan comes to Sandusky to buy a boat, say, well, that tax is going to be paid into a consumption tax here in the state of Ohio. So it's not going to just be the homeowners or the residents of Ohio. It's anybody that's doing business in the state of Ohio is going to be contributing to that tax.
And here's an idea that was a younger person shared with me yesterday. And they said, I don't really understand why all of this is the issue. We passed and we legalized marijuana. If they would tax just the use and sale of that product, they would have more money than they would know what to do with. So I would call out Governor DeWine, I would call out our legislators, and while this, regardless of how your personal feelings are for marijuana use, the fact that it is there, the fact that it is legal, if they were selling it and earning income tax off of that, or property tax variation, they would be able to fund all of these programs that they say they need the money for. So
That goes
just
for a
think
lot
outside of the box.
Like gambling.
Yes.
Like there's all kinds of, the schools were supposed to be supported
Funded by the lottery.
The lottery.
casinos and the lotteries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once again, are we seeing that money?
No.
Where's the accountability? Where's the transparency?
it.
Where does the money actually go to?
That's it.
Because
So
people keep asking that.
that's the workaround. So when they voted and they presented it to us that lottery will help save our schools, that'll give funds to our school. What did Ohio do? Ohio says, okay, well, if they're getting all that money, then we'll take our portion of that money and we'll go elsewhere with it. And we'll do these other projects. So, well, that wasn't what we voted on. We still felt like there was money coming from the state to support our schools, but now you pulled your money, which means, is the lottery money enough? Well, it should be, but we don't see that accountability.
Right. Yeah. That is definitely a problem because, they'll throw taxes on tobacco and alcohol, always have. Marijuana should not be treated any differently. They should be in the same category with that, in my opinion. Well, Tammy, Joe, do you have any questions for Tammy?
You've been awfully quiet.
Yeah.
I'm a good listener.
Joe's the moral support.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't, you pretty much covered everything that I had. I would definitely, I'm all for about getting this done, and whatever I can do, I want to help. And I live in Highland County, and then I do have a lot of cousins there I can go to. I could probably get some petitions over to them and get them signed. So I could probably get a lot of signatures that way. And then if I can work this area as well, even though I don't live here, this is where.
Yeah, and so as the collector, you don't have to live where you're collecting the signatures from. Each county will have a designated sheet. So you can't put a Montgomery County person on with a Warren County person. What the offer is that I have made is that I do it by appointment because my office hours, I'm there a lot of the time. Evenings, weekends, whatever. If somebody needs to get to me, we'll find the time to make that happen. If they physically can't come to me, I'm willing to go to people that I can within reason. If we wanted to say we're going to do signing in Wilmington and we meet at one of the local places that allow us to come in there, I can meet you and everybody can come through and we can sign it. So please feel free to reach out. The other thing, and this is very important, the other thing that I am going to encourage absolutely everybody to do is flood our counties with disputes on our property taxes. So come January 1st, when the county opens their window to where people can file a dispute, I will help you complete the forms, give you the information that you need in order to do that. Just like Lucas County, if 7,000 people could submit for a dispute and they actually work through it, I think if we apply that type of pressure, we're not letting our foot off the gas. That's going to submit for this petition and we're going to file those disputes because it's no longer just free range in our pockets.
Right. That's good advice. Now, that was one of the things. I've had several people up in my area, and I know it's way up in Northeast Ohio, who've asked, can we get her to come, if like the young Republicans, they said, can we get her to come up and speak? I said, well, I can't speak for her. And I know right here in Wilmington, there's another gentleman who does a Facebook Live, said, can I get her on my Facebook Live? So your availability, I think you described that a little bit, as you'll help us out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really a matter of advocacy and making sure people have the information that they need. I am not an accountant. I'm not a legal person, right? But I've got professional experience in this, and I do understand, and I'm in it with you. I absolutely feel the pressure. Sure. My property taxes are now $7,200, and it's like unbelievable that it's gone from $1,900 to $7,200, and I don't have any difference in my house. I update things, I do things, but there's no difference in the land. I haven't amassed anything more to it, so that doesn't feel reasonable. Wow, that sounds like an open, which is the other interesting point. So real estate sales, you know, we're in this business, we understand, and we know what prices have appreciated. Appreciation of prices over the period of time, we talk between a 5 to 8% appreciation. Just to give perspective here as we wrap this up, 5% to 8% appreciation on your value of your home. Why am I looking at a 43% property tax increase? Those two numbers don't jive. The system is broken. Well,
I moved up to Ashtabula in 2018, and since that point, on appraisals, my houses went up $60,000. So, and that's how they're doing it. That's how they're getting more money out of the property taxes. They're just going to keep on jacking up the value of your home.
Just reappraising it at a higher rate.
Exactly.
Right, but it's the compounding interest that keeps happening then, is that it never goes back, it never adjusts.
Oh, they're not going to give you any money once they have their hand in their pocket. They're going to keep taking.
Yep,
well,
for sure. Well,
that might be where the attorney conversation comes in to say, hey, if you've overcharged us, then rightly you need to give us our money back.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's enough attorneys out there always looking for some kind of class action suit. So I'm sure somebody wants to take this up, let us know. One thing I did want to show before we close this episode is Tammy talked about the counties, okay? And I have a bunch of blank ones here. You need to fill this out. So this would be Clinton County filled out. And on each one of these pages, you have to fill out that county. Okay, and and they also give you a demo petition so you can see how to fill it out. So, you know, it's not hard to do. Like I say, you would just get the people around you to sign it. You could probably get 100 signatures very easily.
Yeah.
And if everybody did that, this would snowball very quickly too.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, Tammy Murphy, thank you for being on the Razor's Edge today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks, Howard.
And if we can help you in any way, please let us know because we'll continue to promote you.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow on Wake Up Wilmington.
Oh, we got.